Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with FX Market Insight for Friday, the 2nd of October. All right, now, a bit of a long week, a bit of an absence on my part. But unless you haven't seen it already, there's a big risk-off situation in the market at the moment. More probably to do with equities. The currencies aren't really sort of kicking into gear, except for dollar yen, which is a bit of a safe haven. Now, what I'm talking about is the Donald. He has, and Melania have tested positive to COVID-19. So they're going into quarantine, and that's caused a little bit of a risk-off situation in the market. Now, dollar yen is the pair that's, really sort of, well, out of all the pairs, it has moved significantly. The other pairs, funnily enough, haven't really gone too far. Now, as I was saying sort of Monday when I gave you that update, leading into the non-farm payrolls, you'd expect these pairs to sort of come back and have some sort of retracement leading into the non-farms. And that's pretty much exactly as it's played out. Not a lot of data earlier in the week, and it's going to culminate in this, the really high impacting non-farm payrolls, 6 or 7 different variables. Now, on top of that, we've got Trump going into quarantine. What does that do for us? It's a little bit tricky, right? Non-farm payrolls is tricky generally. But when you sort of factor it in with what else is going on, it's going to be a tough one to work out what's going on. Just look at the major pairs here. Okay, the dollar block pairs, euro, sterling, Aussie, Kiwi, they are drifting lower, or have been over the course of the day. But let me just bring you over to the risk on, risk off pairs. Now, when I was looking at this, you look at the S&P minis, right? An indication of where the equity markets are going to open up in the States, down 1.4%. See yen or dollar yen and the yen crosses all taking a hit to the downside, obviously with dollar yen or the yen rallying, okay, against the dollar. And that's basically on this safe haven profile. As far as the correlation matrix, not a lot going on here with the connection with the equity markets and that risk on, risk off profile. So don't get sort of too caught up in that. Gold and silver, they've been rallying through the day as well as this news came out. And that's where we are. Asian equities obviously taking a bit of a little kick in the belly there as well. Now, what does that do for us? Well, coming into trading today, I mean, with the expected non-farm payrolls coming out and this latest update, this geopolitical update from about Trump, the short-term and long-term direction of most of these pairs has been completely diffused, right? The long-term trends that we had about a week ago, looking really good. They've just sort of drifted back into the range and are now sort of pretty much hanging in the balance, right? Dollar yen obviously got short-term downside momentum. Dollar CAD, I should say, it still has a bit of upside long-term trend in my view. But I tell you what, you're pretty much scratching around trying to find the best opportunities. Now with that, right, I'll just bring you back to the charts. I really like the shape of or the setup of euro, right? We've got support and resistance, but both of the support and resistance come from a fair way back, right? So that makes me feel a bit more confident about what's going on. Like Aussie, Kiwi, and actually sterling, really weak resistance levels. So they're not like massive. They've only got like 2 touches, so don't get sort of too caught up in this. This move in dollar yen is a little bit hard to sort of pick what's going down. And if anything, dollar CAD has a pretty good profile as well, leading into the non-farm payrolls. So to me, the pairs I would be sort of really focusing on is euro and probably dollar CAD at this point. In saying that, let me just bring you back over to the sort of dollar page. You've got the major pairs. They are correlating quite nicely. I can just get my pen on. Look at the euro, sterling, Aussie and Kiwi. So you'd expect any sort of dollar move to be consistent across the board on those. Euro's got the best setup. That's why I like that. But you're going to see some action on those pairs. The dollar index itself is completely diffused and it's now drifting sideways. You can see this on the daily chart here as well. So that's where we are. It's a bit of a drift into the non-farm payrolls. Trump and Melania, they'll be sitting out of all these election speeches over the next 2 weeks. Biden will be loving that, and we'll see how that plays out. But it's going to be a tricky one. wait for the numbers. I would say, I was just going to say, like, wait for the numbers to come out and see what's going on. Don't forget the Fed are looking at these very closely. I can't see any reason why the numbers would be too skew if. It doesn't look like there's been a huge amount of, change in the economic situation of the US. Well, we'll soon find out whether the COVIDs have played a bit of havoc. But there's the data here, right? So you got non-farm payrolls, private payrolls, manufacturing, government, unemployment rate, average earnings. There's a lot of data. If you think it's easy, it's not. But if you get all these numbers coming out the same way, like all positive, well, that dollar's going to shoot to the top side. If they're all really weak, well, downside, here we go. All right, guys, have a good one and all the best. Cheerio.